Consider this, a news and information program recorded on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. From the Fireside Lounge in the Milo Bale Student Center, here is your host, Carol Schrader.
Hello and welcome once again to the University of Nebraska at Omaha. We're going to talk about another educational institution today, and specifically what that kind of institution can offer people in a lifetime that's now calling for 3, 4, 5 career changes. Let me introduce my guest first. Randall Van Wagoner, Dr. Randall Van Wagoner, is Vice President of Educational Services at Metropolitan Community College. One of his compatriots there is Dr. Peter Heinemann, who is Director of Workforce Development Institute there. And that's a key thing in terms of some of the things that are happening with job displacement and having companies ramp up a little on making sure that their employees are fine-tuned in this workaday world. First, did you just not kind of fall off your chair when Alan Greenspan was in Omaha, and what did he talk about?
Community colleges.
I mean, he basically said that in order to take care of this outsourcing and loss of jobs, we have to look for more education, and the main place we're going to look is our community colleges.
He really put forth the community college mission in terms of workforce development and job retraining. It was a kind of a special day for community colleges, I think, nationwide.
He's testified before Congress to that extent too, and you wonder why. Is it because he's saying we're losing the manufacturing and kind of the more blue-collar jobs, and community colleges have done a lot of that training over the years, or is it because of the flexibility? I think educational institutions like UNO here, while I have seen that UNO is pretty flexible in augmenting and changing programs, they're not as flexible, I think, as how you guys are set up to be.
Well, I think it's a combination of both. It's not only the downsizing and the needing to retool of American industry, but it's also the fact that we can respond on a dime. I think the community colleges probably have the largest footprint in the business sector. So while we can be responsive, we can also work with additional educational institutions like the universities in the area to develop a comprehensive program.
One thing before we get to the Workforce Development Institute, and before we talk about in general what community colleges such as Metro can do to help people find new pathways, I'm curious as to how you keep track of what the trends are in staying ahead of the curve. The reason is, almost 15 years ago I did a series and said, who in this state is tracking how to stay ahead of the curve? Not so much as, if you're going to get an English degree, you're going to get an English degree, and you know what that entails. Sure. You might or might not. But you want a job, you want something that's going to pay and support a family, and don't want to be the last one to get it, and the first one, shut out and laid off. You want to be ahead of the curve.
Well, at Metro, we have two primary areas, and the first is really our program advisory committees, and this is a common model for community colleges nationwide, that for each degree program you have a standard set of 10, 15, 20 industry experts from the local businesses who advise the program. You meet a couple times a year to review the curriculum and seek input on how the curriculum needs to change for the changing workforce. And the second one is also common among community colleges, is the Workforce Development branch or department, or at Metro it's the Workforce Development Institute that Pete heads up. They're much closer to the customized needs of business and industry, and I think those are the two primary ways that we are able to keep our curriculum current.
For a long time, a lot of people thought of the old technical community colleges, where you were learning a real specific skill in a lot more of the specifically blue-collar kinds of jobs, or agricultural jobs, where you didn't want to go to a 4-year institute. Now, you guys cover it all. I mean, your culinary arts department, as an example, is your program is well respected in a time when chefs are in demand. That was a big article in the World Herald last week about that. So, but do you think that everyone in, let's say, the greater Omaha community, Douglas, Sarpy, Washington, looks at you as being not all things to all people, but a lot more broad than maybe their image of the past was?
I think it's not all things to all people, it's almost different things to different people.
Truly is. And a service organization may see us as a resource that they may not have of their own, as opposed to a business and industry who's looking for us for training, retraining, and professional development. So while it is to some degree all things to all people, a lot of people will also look at it from the perspective of our tax dollars support you, so what are we getting from the community colleges?
And if they don't, they should.
Rightfully so.
Okay, so you offer, I've taken courses out there. I was not pursuing, I took a real estate course just out of curiosity. I've taken 3 Spanish courses. I look at it as a resource that, you know, I don't necessarily want to get a degree. I just want to become more knowledgeable about working worlds and or finances or how to buy a house without getting messed up. I don't know if everyone looks at that. They always think of those non-credit courses, which are wonderful, but that anyone can go out there and just augment their skill set or their interest.
Yeah, I think keeping the tuition affordable and access, that's the, I guess, at the core of the community college mission, both for credit and non-credit. With our tuition at $35.50 a credit hour, and that's, we're able to keep it that low because of the local tax base that supports the college, and that helps us offer the continuing ed non-credit courses that you mentioned, wine tasting, dog obedience, to computer training and interpersonal speaking, those kinds of
business math. I mean, all kinds of things that there aren't necessarily programs for, and then people can't really get something that's work related at in a university. In other words, that you take a course in a university, it's usually part of a large curriculum. It's part of a big picture. That's how I kind of look at it. You're on a course with the beginning and there's integral steps. You might just need this one thing or need that other thing. And people can pick and choose to fit their life and their skill set. And I think that's what's exciting. And it's inexpensive.
Oh, yes.
Gosh.
And to minimize barriers, you know, we don't have an admissions application that you have to fill out. If you want to register for a course, you come in and we can get you registered. And if there's assessments that need to be taken, then so be it. But we try to minimize the barriers to enrollment versus having an intimidating sequence of events that you have to go through just to get enrolled in a class.
And the campuses are very unintimidating. I mean, they're businesslike. In other words, you're going to school, but they're unintimidating, and you're reaching out. You have community service classes and or non-credit classes in high schools all over. There's somewhere. We're going to get to the workforce development. Don't think I'm not, Pete. But you mentioned that you have these committees or that help you, advise you, these advisory committees. Can you give me some examples of how, you know, the business people said, "Hey, Metro, this is something that maybe you need to look at," and it's not that you wouldn't have anticipated, but it maybe not at that point.
I think a big one for us is our automotive technology program. That program had gone through a number of years of fairly static enrollment, and the program advisory committee members were saying we needed to tap the younger student population and get into the high schools more.
And you are working in the high schools, and you've done welding in the high school so that they get on the road. My son took a welding course and got a Metro credit. Because there was a void with all these electronics in cars now. I mean, it used to be, it was a pretty mechanical process, but they're having a hard time keeping pretty well-paid workers.
We went so far as to, shortly after 2000 in the Y2K bubble, I guess, with computer programming, we had a number of younger students wanting to get into computer programming, thinking that's where all the jobs were, and what they would say is they want to work with computers. Well, if you really want to work with computers, you'd be amazed at how many computers are actually on your car. And we were able to get a few students to change majors who had dropped out of an introductory computer programming class and moved into the automotive program.
Okay, let's talk about workforce development. I think one of the key things that keeps people you know, moving toward staying current and everything is what the corporations themselves do, or the special seminars or certifications that they work with you on providing. Corporations know they need educated employees. You know, it used to be you hire someone, they could lift a lot. I mean, there's a lot more to getting a good paying job in this day and age.
The bar has been raised tremendously. What once might have required a professional certification or a couple of years experience now requires certification plus degrees. So a lot of what we do is very occupation specific. A lot of what we do too is very customized for a client. But the nice part about what we do is we can provide a seamless educational opportunity from non-credit to credit to transferring into diplomas and certificates and degrees through Metro Community College. And the other nice part is the articulation agreement between Metro and the other educational providers where they can continue on.
Such as UNO.
UNO and Bellevue and Creighton.
And what that is basically says we will accept certain credits
Yes.
given, you know, that you maintain the standard, which the standards have gone up, I think, in the community colleges in terms of more
Almost
academic
definitely.
approach. So what would be a typical thing a corporation might call you, or you might go out looking for business? I know you're out there shaking the bushes because you know that that's A, income for the institution,
Sure.
but B, that's how you keep proving your worth as a community college.
It's interesting. We never know what we're going to be asked to do. It can be anywhere from English as a second language for an employer who may have a high population and limited English proficient employees to capability maturity modeling for information technology professionals.
Capability maturity.
CMMI for the electronics industry, it may be Six Sigma. We never know what we're going to be asked to do. We see the full gamut of employers who are committed to employee education to where they offer the training, they pay for the training, it's offered on the clock for any employee and every employee, all the way to those who want the education opportunities and are willing to pay for it, but it has to be on the employee's own time, and then that's their commitment to the process. So we truly do see a full gamut, anywhere from the major Fortune 500 companies to the micro enterprises.
I recently read an article that there is federal job retraining money that isn't even being drawn down, and yet I'm sure on the other end of the thing they say, well, there's not enough money to retrain. Are you able to access federal and/or state dollars, and to help you in this, besides the property tax base that supports you and the tuition?
I think the biggest piece is our partnership with the Tri-County Workforce Board. They're the link to those federal training dollars. And what they've somewhat challenged the college to do, and we've had to change a little bit, is to develop shorter term awards. We traditionally have had a 2-year associate degree and a 1-year certificate. And now we have specialist diplomas that are less than 1 year that generally feed into or relate to either a certificate or a degree, but they tend to be about 6 courses in length. So it's much shorter, very focused on specific occupational skills that a student can go out and contribute to the workforce.
There's also state dollars for employers to provide employee training through Nebraska Workforce Development, Economic Development Funds, but they're also very competitive. 3 years ago, you might apply for $2,000 and $3,000 to offset your training expenses and could be assured of getting that money. Anymore, it's very highly competitive for those same tax dollars.
I think that speaks to what is happening in this country as training has become, we cannot sit back and just, any of us, no matter what profession we're in, and say, well, unless you're an academic, and say, I'm set. I've capped out on the education I need to make a decent living and to feel reasonably sure that even if I get laid off, I can go out and get another job. I mean, this world has changed.
It has changed.
And you used to be people got the gold watch. We've heard this as an example, but you get the gold watch. They say, arrivederci, and you retire. That world is very rare now.
Long gone. Anymore, it's 5 to 7 career changes, not just changes within the industry, but actual career changes. And some industries are probably more demanding than others. The information technology arena requires constant certification and constant updates, but again, as that's being integrated into day-to-day life and other careers, automotive being one of them, that's not an option any longer. You have to stay current.
Right across the river, we have Iowa Western Community College, different state. I'm sure that you have a lot of similarities in some of your core things. But I mean, it's interesting to see you're doing more of the automotive. They're doing airline mechanics. I mean, what I'm getting to is that in this area, because we have 2 community colleges, the menu for a young person or someone thinking about changing careers because things just aren't looking real good in their industry is really phenomenal.
A lot of options.
It's tremendous. We have close to 100 degree programs. And I think every community college across the country tries to really tailor their program offerings to the needs of the local community.
I mean, Eppley Airfield is one where we have the Aviation Institute here, which deals with a different level of employees, airline management, and then they've got that over at Iowa West, just as an example of how people can look at an industry and say, okay, what options do I have? Look at almost any industry.
And another connection for us with the airline is we do the transportation security testing at the Fort Omaha campus. So while, again, everybody has their little piece of that pie, it's not a matter of how can I make my piece bigger, but how can I make the entire pie bigger so that everybody benefits.
Well, and the bottom line is jobs.
Definitely.
And that's what fuels this country, in essence. It fuels the economy, which fuels everything else. So, what you're doing is really key. If you had a magic wand, and in a perfect world, given what you're seeing in, let's say, the Midwest, what would you like to, if you could write a charter for a new certification or associate degree, what's on your list of wishes?
As far as programming or just wishes overall?
Okay, let's take both, one of each.
Okay. I guess programming would be just a variety of opportunities in the health career field. We have students being downsized, or community members being downsized or moved out of traditional manufacturing jobs, for example, and calling the college saying, I want to get into health because I know that there will always be a need in health, and I want to get on that health career ladder, because you can move and retrain, and once you're in the health career field, you can move between different occupations with different training. Well, we can't add new programs due to we have no space to add new programs. We're essentially at capacity. So I guess that leads into the second wish is additional facilities.
Now you've got some on the drawing board, or limited. You're thinking about purchasing land in Sarpy County, which would give you a new spot and I think that's in Bellevue. So obviously you hope to put a new facility there, right? At some point. And then the Omaha Public Library project, which is, it's paying for the library, and then you're doing some things. Is that about it?
That's
as far as building?
Really our campus master plan was developed over the last 2 years, and we worked with architects to fully develop what the capacity would be of our 3 primary campuses at Fort, South, and Elkhorn.
And you're there?
And we're there in our existing facilities, but with the additional land that we have at each space, on each campus, what buildings would be called for, and projecting out what potential programs would go in those.
So you have programs that you could develop fairly easily?
Fairly easily, and directly move graduates into jobs.
Wow.
With no facilities, those programs aren't.
Well, who do we call?
Well, the college is working on securing funding for a health and science building at our South Omaha campus. We hired a federal lobbyist to pursue federal dollars to directly affect and impact the healthcare worker shortage.
Yeah, because those people are going to be taking care of me in the nursing home. I want you to do it and do it right. Well, what about you, Pete, a doctor?
Well, since we're an extension of Randy's division, I would parrot what Randy's sentiments are, and I guess as a long-term goal on a broader base, I'd like to see a totally seamless educational opportunity that's really driven by the opportunities. So all the way from K-12 through the university experience, that programs aren't established on the agrarian calendar, and it's not in quarters or semesters. It's seamless. It's whatever direction a program or an individual needs to head into. That's what determines the format of the training.
Okay, so give me a specific example of how you could move that along.
Well, healthcare would be a good example if you started it at the earliest possible level at the high school and offering internships and the 2+2 agreement such as we have, but instead of offering it in quarters or semesters, but to partner with the area employers to provide what training is needed and in what format that individual needs to step into that career as quickly and as proficiently as possible.
I remember, and I don't even know if this category category of healthcare worker exists, but they used to have LPNs, and that was sort of as far as kind of the nursing type of job. That was the entry-level one, and they increased the standards in that job, which is I think very important. But I mean, people that think they want to be a nurse don't have to be intimidated by. They're going to go right to the baccalaureate level at the university, and feel they have to wait 4 years to get employed, because everybody can't.
Right.
And by having seamless kinds of things and these articles of articulation, you can probably get people working and studying
Very quickly.
at the same time.
Partnering with the high schools locally to develop a certified nursing assistant offerings for high school juniors and seniors. Those students, if they are a little squeamish when they, at the first sight of blood, nursing's probably not the program for
But they
them.
can find out.
They could find out early, you bet.
That's really important. So your wish list would include new facilities. Do you think that many of the community colleges in Nebraska and maybe Western Iowa, because people watch from there, are in a similar situation? That this need for job change and job fine-tuning is just mushroom?
I think that is definitely the case across the state of Nebraska. It's my understanding, as I think about it, every community college in the state is either currently constructing or currently pursuing the development of new facilities because they've experienced similar growth.
Now that's not a big problem for you, is it, Dr. Heineman, in the sense that sometimes this can be done on site of the corporation, or the corporation's willing to help you find another
True.
place to hold a specific set of classes or whatever.
True. About 90% of the programs that we do are offered at the employer's location, and it could be on all 3 shifts too. So you have to have the flexibility. You may be delivering it right on the shop floor, or it may be in a formal classroom.
Is there, there used to be such a delineation between technical community colleges, as they used to be known, and the university, that it was sort of an all or none proposition. You were going this track, or you were going on that track. I think one of the healthy things is that we don't have that, or if people don't know that you don't have to.
You have options.
Say I've got to go for a 4-year degree. I'm an academic type, and that you're not academic if you go to the community college, or that sort of thing.
Nationwide, community colleges have generally 3 degrees in Associate of Arts and Associate of Science that are intended to transfer, and an Associate of Applied Science that was intended to be a terminal degree. And here in Nebraska and a few other states, the universities are open enough to accept that Associate of Applied Science program in certain instances as junior status into the university. So I think that helps break down some of the barriers and moves towards some of that seamless education.
Well, Dr. Heineman and I had a very brief discussion about your website. and this is not just strictly to Metro. And the thing is that I sometimes look through different schools' websites because I'm interested in what's out there that maybe I might be, not even if I have a career, I'm just always interested in finding something new and interesting that I can learn about. And because there is so much offered in institutions such as yours, I mean, Workforce Development Institute's a whole different thing, and yet it, for a young student, a middle-aged student, whatever, to go say, I kind of want to look at the menu of what's out there. How do you do that? You send out your catalogs, which are wonderful, and they can kind of go through that, but they don't know how that all fits into the greater scheme sometimes of a new career.
One of the things we've had a lot of discussion about along those lines is to almost start reducing some of the information that we have and just say, call us. Because I think one of the things that the community colleges pride themselves on is that personal touch and treating individuals as individuals. So rather than getting lost on the internet somewhere in a very complex web, just call us and talk, and let the academic advisors and student services professionals understand your needs.
So, I mean, there really is a system of student advisor. The reason is because I had an advisor once when I came here, and that was my advisor of record. They assign you one, and I don't think, other than to make sure I had my degree requirements or I was on track, or how to get this class when it was closed or when I could take it, did I ever use one. Now, some people don't really need too much guidance, but you know that people do.
And that the advisors are there if they need them, and if not, they can register online and do most of what they need to online.
And I think we're even seeing at the high school level, as you've indicated, for for so many years, the community colleges were a second choice, and even
In
the
fact, they were kind of, the
counselors-
counselors would often,
Yes.
you know,
But
look
we're
down upon
seeing
it.
that that's changing, where, you know, that's for the majority of the students, the community colleges are an excellent way to even get into the first 2 years of your academic career. So not only is that changing, but also the advisors are becoming more career advisors as well.
I also think that the atmosphere is a little different at a community college, and I don't mean in a good way or a bad way, but I think it's a good way, is that if you walk through the doors of Metro, let's say, and you take a few classes, and you don't like the sight of blood, you find out, and whatever, there's not that sense of, sometimes I think at a university, that you failed. There's more of a gee, it's okay to sample feeling there. I mean, a lot of people go on sampling at the community
most
college
definitely.
for a long time. They're just lifelong learners.
Community colleges have a, we call it the ability to benefit. And if a student has the ability to benefit, there's a place for them at the community college, be it job retraining and all of the things that we've discussed.
Let's don't go to either edge of the age spectrum. Let's say someone is about 30 to 35. They are in fear, which a lot of people are, holding on to a job that maybe doesn't have insurance or whatever, because they figure, you know, I'm stuck. You know, fear is a terrible thing.
It is.
And there's no reason to be fearful with opportunities that you offer out there. You can, without a lot of money, find some new things.
Community colleges across the board have a phenomenal range of support services, particularly for academic support services, for learning centers. We have a math center, a writing center, and they tend to be fairly unique in terms of there tends not to be similar services around in the community, where a student who's been out of high school for 10, 15 years and hasn't taken that math class, they can go into the math center, they can receive tutoring for free, and succeed in the classes that they need to take.
And you also have help, as I understand, and we're almost out of time, for people that have, you know, special challenges. They're dyslexic and they need help. Sort of the higher functioning, what this, I guess we'd call special ed in a normal school. So you're there for, you're ready to help.
Indeed, we have special needs counselors at every campus and well-coordinated support services for those students.
Well, we've run out of time, but we hope we've given people the idea of what today's community college is all about. I want to thank Dr. Randall Van Wagener and Dr. Peter Heineman, and we'll see you next week on Consider This. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
To view this edition of Consider This or past programs, visit our website at unotv.unomaha.edu. For comments or questions, call 402-554-2516 during regular business hours. Consider This is a production of UNO Television.